Welcome back to the show. I am Kinsey Roberts.
And I'm Lindsay Lucas. Together, we are the Venue Podcast. In today's episode, Kinsey's going to walk us through partnerships, which I'm super excited about because I feel like nobody ever really pulls back the curtain on partnerships. It's kind of like this, I wonder how this goes down. And there
Mm.
are so many mistakes that you can make for sure. So, Kinsey has actually experienced several different types of partnerships, and she's going to talk about some lessons that she learned, some things that she would do differently in the hopes that she's going to save you some time and quite a bit of money.
Yes. So I have been a part of several varieties of partnerships. So let me share those with you first, just so you can kind of get an indicator of my experience. Before we get started with those, I just want to give this disclaimer. I'm sure it comes as no surprise. I am not a lawyer and I'm not your lawyer. And so none of this is legal advice. I'm just sharing from my personal experience, like Lindsay said, in the hopes that it can really give you an incredible foundation to start with if you are interested in a partnership or if you're at the very beginning stages of a partnership and you're sort of sensing the need to become more official. And so that's what I want to say. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer. I'm just here giving personal experience tips, again, to hopefully save you some time and money. So the first partnership I was a part of was an actual 50-50. So 50, we each had 50% of a company, and that is my wedding venue business, Vista View Events. That was a true 50-50 business partnership. That's one I learned a lot from, and we're definitely going to go into those learnings today as we spend about 15 or 20 minutes together. I that and then I eventually bought that partner out of my company. So buyout is always an option. That's something that I'm going to talk to you guys about. But that's the first partnership. Second partnership was a little bit different, and that is my in-house wedding coordinators, the partnerships that I had with those companies and those individuals to provide coordination services exclusively to my couples at Vista View events. So that is a partnership that we didn't own any part of each other's businesses at all, but we had a mutual client and we created a partnership on the back end of things. So that way, because it was, a money exchange. So we wanted that to be formalized. And then
Mhm.
finally is my partnership with yours truly, the beautiful redhead on this video, which is Lindsay Lucas. We have a partnership for Your Venue Experts and the Venue podcast, which you're watching right now. And that is a more informal, formal partnership where we don't do venue education without each other. As it relates to the topics that we discussed together. So what is cool about Lindsay and I's partnership is that it's a really mature partnership in the sense that we are very clear on what each of us brings to the table, and we absolutely use all of that knowledge and information and insight outside of the venue podcast, but we are also very clear on what we come together on. And it's this really symbiotic relationship that we're not holding each other back outside of the venue podcast from being venue educators in the space. But when we come together, we're clear on that line of no, this topic is great for us to do together. This is what we do outside of the venue podcast. And like I said, super symbiotic relationship. That one we've had since gosh, 20,
2018?
yeah, I think 2019. So,
Yeah.
yeah, 7 years this year as we record this. So,
Nuts.
long-term partnership. I know, in a great way. Long-term partnership there. My 50-50 business partnership was a 5-year term. So, another longer-term partnership. So, again, I just wanted to share that experience with you so you guys kind of know where I'm coming from. First things first, I learned a lot from having a partnership at my wedding venue and also seeing the end of that partnership through a buyout. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about first. So I'm just going to kind of high level overview for you. Take notes, write these down, save this episode for later because this truly will help you. I do want you to consult a lawyer always whenever
Mhm.
you're getting into a partnership. And in fact, I don't care how long you've been in a partnership. It's never too late to formalize things and get good advice. So if I tell you things that you're like, goodness, I've been in a partnership for 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and I don't have any of these things, it's never too late. And I highly encourage you to do it because you
Yeah.
just never know when things are going to change and when you're going to wish you had that formalization structure. So
Right.
yeah. So first thing I learned in my partnership at the venue was to have it formalized. This partnership was formal in the sense that we had an operating agreement, but the operating agreement was created when we got our liquor license. So prior to that, which was okay because it was like the third season we were in business. Prior to that, we had no formal structure because we're family. So that was tough. However, once we created the operating agreement, we created it ourselves. We did not have a lawyer overlook it. These are all lessons I want you to learn from me, right? Don't make the same mistakes I did. We created it ourselves. We didn't have a lawyer overlook it, though I will say for both of us, I do feel like it was intentional. We spent many hours on the operating agreement. It was intentional. We agreed to the contents. It was not confusing to anyone, in my opinion, from
Mhm.
the many hours that we spent on it. That being said, because it wasn't formalized with a lawyer or a notary, I believe that that's what caused some communication breakdown once the partnership was ending. So that's my lesson to you is formalize it with a lawyer and take the next step and have it notarized and you both get a copy. And then that way down the road there is no, well, I didn't think that document is real kind of conversation. Um, that can happen. One thing I will tell you, this is what Derek's, my husband's lawyer, tells him. You could do whatever you want. There's consequences to every action, good or bad. That's what she always says. Do whatever you want, but there's going to be consequences to every action. So, and the same is true when it comes to partnerships. So, I don't want you to think that, oh, okay, if I formalize it and everything's in writing and we think of every little thing that could go wrong and it's all written down and we sign it and a lawyer looks over it and approves it or rewrites it for us so it makes sense, and then we have it notarized, nothing is ever going to go wrong. That's just not the case in life, and it's certainly not the case in partnerships because, like I said earlier, you never know when things could change.
Right.
People's lives change, people's opinions change, relationships change, and that's why having it formalized is better than not having it formalized because it provides you a leg to stand on, both of
Mhm.
you, whether it's
Yeah.
two people in a partnership, three people, five people, 10 people. Everybody should have the same opportunity and the same clear communication from an operating agreement. So always have one. The second thing that I learned is the buyout part. The buyout part is interesting. I would totally go through that again. I would do a buyout again. I would buy a business again. I learned a lot during this process. And one of the things that I will tell you is that if you are in a partnership, and even if you have an operating agreement, and you should, right, that outlines your buyout process, whether or not you're the person who initiates the buyout, what you absolutely need to do, whether you initiate the buyout or your partner initiates the buyout, and there's only two of you, um, you immediately need to go get your own lawyer if you don't have one. And you also need to get your own CPA if you don't have one. Here's why. Then this is what I learned. The CPA and the lawyer for the business are the lawyer and CPA for the business,
Mhm.
for the business structure, for the LLC. They're not Kinsey's CPA. They're not Lindsay's lawyer. They are the business's lawyer and the business's CPA. And when you are deconstructing a partnership, you need to have your own team to help you through that deconstruction. Whether, like I say, if you're the one initiating the buyout and you're becoming the sole owner, or you are the one selling your shares, and we'll talk about that in a second, or selling your part of the business, and like I say, I'm going to talk about the difference between those two things here in a minute. You need to have your own team behind you because this is all very legal. Like this is a very legal process, typically, especially if you have it formalized. So that's my tip on that. Real quick, let me touch on Kinsey. What's the difference between shares and selling your part of the business? So if you have, again, I am not a lawyer, I'm just trying to speak like general lay people talk. There are different types of buyouts that can happen. A lot of times with small businesses, the buyout is this. It's you're going to buy me out for $10,000. I'm taking $10,000 and we're going to liquidate the business and we're going to split the assets. Like we're going to split the liquid of that. We sold everything for 20,000, you get 10 and I get 10. And then whoever gets the business, they have to reopen under a new name. They have a new LLC. It's they get the business, like they get the IP and all of that, but you have to liquefy everything. That's like a common small business buyout. I've seen that happen at a local retail store, and it can totally work. The other part of a buyout that I've seen with small businesses is that you buy their shares. So, and this is something that's really important to formalize in the operating agreement, which is, do we have to liquidate this business and shut it down completely? Or am I just buying your shares? Are your shares just worth a certain amount? So let's
Mhm.
say I wanted to buy Lindsay's shares out of the Venue podcast and it's, $100,000. Well, then I just pay her $100,000. She goes away. She signs over everything the Venue podcast is to me, and the Venue podcast continues to run in public, and you don't know it ever happened, you, the onlooker. That's buying someone's shares. The business doesn't have to shut down. Everything operates as normal. The person left standing is the one who gets everything. That's purchasing someone's shares. So if you are at a stage where you can determine what that means with your partnership, I would highly encourage you to do so. Again, I want to just keep saying this. Like, I am not a lawyer, so please talk to them about this. But I think if you listen to this episode, you're going to have enough knowledge to be dangerous, and you're going to ask the right questions to people who are much smarter than me at this topic. That's our goal with this episode. The final thing I learned, not the final thing, but I think the final thing I want to share with you in this partnership is that I would highly encourage you to never, ever, ever, ever go into a 50-50 partnership.
Agreed.
Fit, thank you. 50-50 partnership is tough. The main reason it's tough is that the you will almost always be in a stalemate. Not almost always. Lindsay and I are hardly ever in a stalemate, and it's because we have a great partnership and we have similar personalities. We have and similar in a way that we're both logical and realistic. But there will come a time. We also have things about ourselves that are not great, right? So we can kind of feed off of those not great parts of each other. But in a 50-50 partnership, the opportunity to be in a stalemate is so great. And because you both have to come to the exact same decision, that's what 50-50 means, you
Mhm.
can never get anything done. And
Yeah.
it is a waste of the business's time, resources, the client's time, the growth, the scaling. It is never worth it, in my opinion. And if you can get out of it, I highly encourage you to do that. And not get out of your partnership, but I just mean like if you can get out of having a 50-50 partnership, even if you're the one, if it's, 47-52 or 49-51, the person who owns more of the percentage is the final say. But of course, it is in their, that's what being a leader means. It is in their best interest to work together to a proper resolution that you can all agree on, correct? However, there will come a time where someone just has to take a gut shot and
Yeah.
they have to be the one responsible for the decision. And if you are in a 50-50 partnership, it's never going to happen. We tried to avoid this by saying, if we ever were not able to make a decision together, we will consult like a third party board. That can work, I think. As long as the board are completely third party people who have absolutely no vested interest in either one of you as a human being, or your families, or your friends, or your business. And that's really hard to put together
Yeah.
unless you know someone personally. So, for instance, Lindsay would be a great person to have on a third party board for venue owners listening to this podcast. I'm not telling you that she's going to do that, but I'm just saying, like, she understands your industry. She is a consultant in the industry, but she has no vested interest personally in either one of you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
Yeah. So that's the final thing that I learned is that 50-50 partnerships are tough. Please don't do it. Um,
Yeah. There needs to be a
yeah,
deciding factor.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I agree.
Somebody has to hold the veto
Question.
power.
Someone has to hold the veto power and it'll make you feel, and you know what I think is important to share? I don't know if I said this, but you don't have to be the one. I know that, and I can speak from experience. I know that our ego and pride thinks that we need to be the boss. I am an 8 on the Enneagram, so I certainly feel that way often.
Yeah.
But what I have found and what I have experienced over these last 10 years, which we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary of Vista View Events last month in February, is that you don't always have to be the guy. And So something to think about
Yeah.
as you work through your partnership structure.
Well, and the other thing to think about is like with great power comes great responsibility, right? So whoever holds the
So true.
51 plus percent within the company, yeah, you hold the deciding power, but you also have a whole lot more responsibility that goes along with that.
That's exactly right. It really, you being the deciding factor has its own set of anxiety that comes with it, or it has its own set of rules, basically. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, you might think you're the big dog, but the big dog gets in the fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you are also responsible for the fallout because
Yep.
you are the one who decided, you're the one who vetoed or did this or that. And that is what I think we miss, and I certainly have in the past. We miss the fact that, oh, guess what? If you're the guy, you're the guy,
Yeah.
good or
Yeah.
bad.
No matter what, good or bad. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The next couple of things, so less formal partnership, formal in the sense that we both knew what was expected of us, and it was important for us to is sorry, let me back up. Let's go to my partnership with my in-house coordinators that I have at Vista View Events. I actually only work with one company now. That has been a really incredible structure, but I used to work with three. And so this partnership was formal, but a little less formal, right, than my actual business partnership. This one was actually more formalized in the sense that, hey, I will like this is what you can expect from Vista View events. And then they would say, this is what you can expect service-wise from, Lindsay's planning company. And then
Mhm.
this is what we expect of each other as we're working together for these mutual clients. And because they are in-house, Lindsay's planning company can expect this amount of money per wedding from Vista View Events to coordinate this wedding and paid in these installments. That worked really well because like I say, it was a more informal partnership with people that I knew. They had their own business, going back to sort of the big dog in the fight thing, ego, pride, all of that. We all love to be the owner of our own business. And I feel like the reason this partnership worked pretty well, it certainly had pros and cons, is that neither one of us was really stepping on the toes of the other person's business. We had no vested interest in each other's business. We had no performance clause as far as like Vista View Events is responsible to provide 30 weddings a year or 50 weddings a year or anything like that. But of course, the reason that works is that we all of our businesses, and this is just my personal opinion, all of our businesses for those coordinators that I worked with in the past, were all sort of running the same race. So
Mhm.
we were all in business kind of the same, equal amounts of time. We were all hungry. We want to make money. And so even though there wasn't a performance clause, there is a general understanding that I'm out here doing my best trying to book weddings, which is indicative of how many coordinators I partnered with, right? Like there's no reason to partner with three if I'm only hosting 5 weddings a year.
Yeah.
So that one I enjoyed. The hiccups came with farming, with my partnerships were negotiated with the owners of those companies. And that's who I worked with most often up to this point. And it's
Mhm.
why I offered partnership to these people. And then they were growing, which is incredible. But then they would farm Vista View Events work out to their team. And of course, we know this, like I know this. Our teams are just not the same as working with the owner in certain capacities. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Like they were incredible.
Yeah.
Um, all of them, nothing bad to say. It just was different.
Yeah.
And in for me, it was not about the people, it was actually just about the coordination. See what I did there? It was the coordination of well, now I'm not just working with one person. I am filtering like 3 to 4 people and their different work styles and their different personalities. They're no, they don't actually work for me. So, you know what I mean? And that's just where for me, I was like, I am actually not a good enough manager for this. It had nothing to do with them. It was a Kinsey thing. It was like, I'm not a good enough boss to be working with, and I'm not their boss, but like, I'm not a good enough leader to be working with multiple different companies and then multiple different people and personalities within companies that I don't own. And
Mhm.
so that's why I decided to let go of those partnerships. So now I exclusively just work with one, and the one person, majority of the time, works at Vista View Events. And that has just become like a really fruitful, intentional, close knit partnership
Mhm.
where we understand each other very well, and I trust her implicitly with my business. Um, and it's because we've been able to have so much one-on-one time together. And so that's what has worked for me. And yet I know plenty of venues they also have in-house coordinators with that they are farming out to other planning companies, and they have multiple, two, three, four, five, and it works beautifully. So it really just depends on what type of person you are. And like I said, for me, it was not a them thing. It was totally, it's not you, it's me. And it worked out a lot better to have just one person who had the capacity to take all the weddings that I do per year.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's great.
Yeah. And then finally, we'll touch on our partnership, Lindsay, and I'm curious what you think about this. Our partnership is fairly informal because, and I think again, I'm gonna go back to it. Unlike having a partner in the same business, I feel like I do better in business partnerships where we have our own thing going on
Mm.
and we come together to do a similar like my coordinator, she has a wedding planning company, I have a wedding venue business, and then we come together to partner on this one piece of that. We don't own each other's companies, and you and I are the same. You
Yeah.
have Lindsay Lucas Consulting, I have She Creates Business, and we come together on the venue podcast and your venue experts. And correct me if I'm wrong, you and I are both eights on the Enneagram. I feel like that works well for us because we do like to have our own control over certain aspects of our professional life.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree to that. And I feel like, um, you can look at it one of two ways. There's a lot of times where opposites attract, right? In certain
Totally.
working conditions. And you and I absolutely are not opposites. We are cut from the same cloth 100% personality
Yes.
wise, right?
Yes.
But we do not work together every single day.
Mm.
And so I
So
think
true.
that that
Wait.
that definitely helps. Also, I think that it helps like in the aspect that we are the same personality type. We're both Enneagram 8s. We are both very blunt and we don't take offense to each other like holding each other accountable to certain things, right? So
So
like when
true.
I'm having an off day and I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna bail today. You're like, no, you're not. Get on camera, right? And so, and I don't take offense to it because I'm like, ah, she's right. I can suck it up. I can show up. It's fine, And we're both able to take emotion out of it for the greater good of what we're building, right?
Yes.
So I think like that is definitely helpful. The other thing that I really like about our partnership is that it's very fluid.
Mm.
We are both very comfortable having extremely clear and transparent communication and saying, this feels good, this doesn't feel good. Hey, I want to grow this way. I want to grow this way. How are we going to make both things happen? And honor each other's separate growth while keeping the main, um, what do I want to say? Like our main goal in our partnership moving forward, right?
Yes. I could not agree more. Something that I just want to shine a light on that you just said is that we both honor each other's separate growth.
Yeah.
And from partnership stories I've heard, from personal experience, that has to be key. Whether you are opposites attract, whether you're cut from the same cloth like Lindsay and I, either way, one way or the other, you have to be able to honor each other's personal growth. And I would piggyback on that and say yes, and you have to be discerning and self-aware enough to understand when you are the bottleneck holding the business back and be open and honest with your partner about that.
Right.
So if your separate growth becomes, or your separate life changes, your separate life issues, whatever it is, becomes a hindrance to the company, and you don't have enough self-awareness to understand that, that company is immediately like that partnership is almost, I almost guarantee it's over
Hmm.
because there's no honesty there. And
Right.
I think self-awareness, you know what I mean? And I feel like because you and I are, one of the things we have, like Lindsay said, is we have so much honesty. So her and I, over the last 7 years, we have gone through a lot of personal transitions and a lot of professional transitions. I am
Yeah.
currently going through one. And I think because we honor each other's personal growth, but we're also both incredibly self-aware about like, listen, I am like the struggle bus right now. I am not providing, or I am not showing up to this partnership, or I need a break, or whatever it is. I think that's why we've been able to have such a long-term partnership because, like Lindsay said, it's fluid and we honor that in each other. And if you feel like you are not in a partnership like that, that would be one of my first indicators to start thinking through, okay, do I want to, am I open to having a conversation to make this better?
Mhm.
Or am I ready to move on? In my case, I was ready to move on. I just knew that about myself. I was not open to having conversations to moving things forward because I knew what I wanted. And I think that's okay too. But if you're someone who wants to have conversation and see where that can take you, if the person is like, you know what, you're right, and I'm sorry, or whatever it is, I think that's also totally possible.
Okay, and can you clarify which partnership you're referencing whenever you say I was not willing to move on?
Yes, absolutely. So in my venue business, when I had a 50-50 partner, I came to the table with buyout because I knew that I didn't want to necessarily leave the venue business. I was certainly willing to. My goal in that offer was to remove myself from the partnership because I had already chosen in my heart and in my mind to leave the partnership. And I knew I was not wanting to have conversation to try to salvage the partnership or anything like that.
Mhm.
Because yeah, so like I say, I think in order to do your partner a service, you should you should know that about yourself before you come to your partner with any kind of because it's emotional, right? There's a lot of
Yes, yes.
emotions in getting out of a partnership or being in a partnership in general.
Yeah.
And so I think regardless of how you feel, you should do the other person a service by understanding what you're asking for. So are you just wanting to have a conversation? Are you wanting to like make a big move like I was? Are you just wanting to like, hey, I need to like lay my feelings out here?
Uh-huh.
Understand what you're asking for because they don't know. They're not psychic. And
Right.
I don't think that's fair
Yeah.
to say like, gee, I don't know. I'm wishy-washy. So I just knew officially that that's what I wanted. And that's kind of that can be tough, right? That can be tough for anyone to handle. Like Lindsay and I's personalities are pretty stalwart. Once we decide on something, that's what we're going to do. And if it's her and I love that. I love a proper resolution immediately. And not everybody does. And so that's something that I also learned is that respecting other people's feelings, not to
Hmm.
the point of um, respecting other people's feelings, but I'm not going to do that to the point of
The
decentering
detriment of the detriment of the business.
the detriment of the business or my own values and integrity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so you gave a lot of really, really good tips today. To summarize, give me 3 to 5.
Okay, 3 to 5 big tips. First things first, don't ever get into a 50-50 partnership. It's too hard to make decisions. Second thing, if you are in a partnership of any kind and you want to make any big moves, specifically this is related to buying out or being bought out of a partnership, you need to get your own CPA and your own lawyer. The one that operates in the business is not your personal CPA and it's not your personal lawyer. You and encourage your partners to do the same. You both need that personal team to help you through it. This is not a gotcha situation. This is, hey, we both deserve to have this sort of protection on each side. The third one is there's multiple types of partnerships. There's multiple types of shares or ownership that you can have, and you don't always need to be the guy for it to be fruitful and fulfilling for you. The
Mhm.
fourth tip is formalize everything. I don't care if it's your sister, your best friend, your cousin, your brother. Formalize everything because, as Brene Brown always says, being clear is being kind. And don't let anybody make you feel less than because you want to formalize things. I feel like I live in a rural community and that often happens where
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh, you're an interesting person. You're a weirdo because you want a contract and you want things in writing." And yes, I am, and that is a compliment. That does not hurt
Yeah.
my feelings one bit. Formalize everything. And then fifth and finally, have respect for people's differing opinions when it comes to your partnerships, but never to the detriment of the business, because that means it's the detriment of your clients and the way that money comes in, and never to the detriment of your own values and your own integrity. You're going to have hard and awkward conversations and stay strong, and the right outcome will happen for you.
I love that. Well,
Good.
maybe two questions. If we are speaking, or if newbies are listening to us
Yeah.
right now, right, and they're thinking about getting into a partnership, they're very early in the process. What is some pre-work that they should start doing now to prepare themselves and to have more intelligent conversations with potential partners?
First couple of things that you can start doing are, I mean, first things first, let's utilize the resources that we have, which is hop on chat, hop on Claude, and just say, like, before I get into a partnership, what are the 20 questions I need to think through before I sign on the dotted line? And it's going to spit out some really general stuff to you. It's taking you know how these things work. It's taking information from multiple sources. Hopefully it's accurate, but it's definitely at least going to lay a foundation for, oh, okay, I didn't think of that, or that's a great idea, or oh, I feel good about myself. I've thought of these five things at least.
Mhm.
And the second thing I would encourage you guys to do is come over and buy my product. It's Profitable Partnerships. It's $29. It is basically a full-blown guide. It's about 30 pages, really just going into probably 10 times more than we talked about here from my personal experience. It's related to, I talked about mostly wedding industry stuff, but it also can help you with digital, with IP, because these are all things that I've experienced with all three of these partnerships. Everything that we talked about today, again, like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but if you grab that product for $29, it is going to help you. I mean, you could almost outline an operating agreement and outline like 50 questions to ask your lawyer, and you're going to save thousands of dollars because they're not going to have to go do all of that legwork for you. So, Profitable Partnerships is 29 bucks. That's the next thing I think you should do, whether you're in the wedding industry or not. It's going to help you because I've been doing it for a decade. I've made so many mistakes that I regret, and some that I'm really proud of, or some decisions that I'm really proud of when it comes to partnerships. And it's all just laid out for you in that document.
Yeah, I love that. One quick thought to build off of what you said about chat and Claude, and it's just a really quick note that I want to make. I think
Yes.
that that is fantastic advice to pop things in, ask it questions, and have it, send you back questions of like, here are the things to think about. A point that I want to hammer home, though, is we are not having AI write our contracts for us. We
Oh
are
my
going
gosh.
to a professional. Do not hear what we are not saying. Claude, Chat, any other AI platform is kind of more or less like a sounding board than anything. They are not writing any professional documents for us. You could get yourself in a heap of trouble. So go to an actual contract attorney for that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, going to Profitable Partnerships, Kinsey's, it's a digital download, correct?
Yes, just a
Okay.
digital PDF.
Okay, so she started talking about that after I asked the question that was like, what can newbies do? I just want to be clear and say, like, this digital product is for anybody, even if you are already in an existing partnership. This has so much knowledge and information. It would still be a good idea for you to spend a whopping 29 bucks and just double check everything that you have currently set in place because most partnerships, I would say, if not all, should be reviewed annually. And at that annual renewal time, it's the perfect opportunity to say,
Yep.
hey, you know what, partner? Here's what I learned. I think we should have this conversation and potentially add this language into our existing partnership. So that was just the final thing that I
That's so
wanted to
powerful, Lindsay. I
clarify.
could not agree more.
Yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to be
Yes.
clear. It's not just for newbies. It's for anyone and everyone. If you're thinking about getting into a partnership, if you're already in a partnership, if you're thinking about dissolving a partnership in the semi-near future, definitely take a look at it. Oh, where do they
Thank you.
go? Actually, where can they find that?
Oh my gosh, thanks for asking. Come on over to my website, shecreatesbusinesspodcast.com. We will also link it in all the places. You can find
Yes.
it on our link in the show notes, whether you're watching the video or listening to the podcast. You can also find it on the Venue Podcast link on Instagram. We have our little stand store link there and it links out directly to it.
Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming and talking about this. Again, I value it just because I feel like anytime we can have like open the door to closed doors conversations that most people don't talk about, like
Yes.
those are my favorite conversations to have. So pull back the curtain a little bit for everybody. So I appreciate you doing that for us.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me talk about it. I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time. And like I said, it's been about 10 years in the making. So, again, I don't know everything, but I know a few things that are going to help save you some time and money. So, hopefully that helped. Give us a shout if you have any questions, any comments, any thoughts on partnerships. We are at the Venue Podcast and on Instagram and anywhere you get your podcasts. As always, I am Kinsey Roberts.
And I'm Lindsay Lucas. Together, we're the Venue Podcast. We'll see you next time.